Hey everyone, my name is Rob from the Waxed channel, and I'm here with JC from the Flip Side. He was nice enough to come on in and do a movie soundtrack vinyl showdown. What you got from your collection? And how's it going, man?
It's going great, man. So excited to be here. First off, thank you very much for always watching my videos. I appreciate it and commenting. I absolutely love it. And I'm excited that you're starting a channel. I think for me personally, this is the best thing. Like I love watching others join the community. It's more fun when I know some people are afraid to make videos, but it's more fun when people make videos because then we get to interact, like this. And I love it. So thank you so much. I'm honored to be your first guest.
Yeah, I think the VC needs another older guy with a hat, beard, and glasses.
I love
There's
it.
not enough of us,
I know
right?
if you're between 40 and 60 and you've got glasses and a hat and you have
Yeah,
a record collection, then
yeah.
this is the way to go.
I'm follically challenged, so I prefer to wear a hat. Don't need the glare on screen. Freak people
Love it.
out. Yeah. So, and I am a music person, always been into music, but I'm sure like the rest of the universe with the pandemic and being locked in your house, I've kind of picked up the vinyl thing. And it's a nice distraction from my everyday life. And I've had nothing but a good experience. I've got to meet you, um, and you've been nice enough to allow me to talk to you. You're not a prima donna yet, so it's nice.
I don't think that's gonna happen, buddy. Don't worry.
Okay.
All right.
Um, so do we? Just to I haven't done an intro video of who I am and introducing myself to the world, and I'll do a video on that. But my professional career has been in the movie industry, so I thought having a nice conversation with you where we met, you suggested that we go down the road with soundtracks. So you being the guest on the video, why don't you start it off?
All right. So we're gonna do my top 5 soundtracks that I physically own. So I don't own all of my favorite soundtracks.
Right.
And you can imagine I have a Sam Jackson Pulp Fiction tattoo. So that's definitely one of my favorite soundtracks, but I don't physically own it on vinyl yet. So these are the 5 that I own. And the number 5 is going to be The Big Chill. Now, this here is a collection of already released songs. So there's no original material on it. So you might be thinking, why do you love this so much? Well, this is one of my father's favorite records. So as a child, on especially Sunday mornings, my father would wake up and he'd make some coffee and start playing records. So I would always wake up to the sound of music. So to me, when I hear a song like I Heard It Through the Grapevine, I expect My Girl by The Temptations to be next. I know that's kind of weird, but it's like the order of these songs have been just ingrained in my head. And they're all fantastic songs. You guys can zoom in and see. I'll leave it there for a second. But it's got I Heard It Through the Grapevine, My Girl, Good Lovin', Tracks of My Tears, which is probably one of my all-time favorite songs, Joy to the World, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, I Second That Emotion, A Whiter Shade of Pale, which is also probably in my top 100 songs of all time, and then Tell Him. So just all amazing songs and a great soundtrack. So that's my number 5.
And I have this background in movies, and that's kind of been my world, and I'm sort of an encyclopedia, and that's one of the best selling soundtracks, I think. Also, Kevin Costner's cameo in the movie where he's the dead body, where they of the friend, they all get together.
Yeah.
But that soundtrack also helped kids relate to their parents because it was very popular, multi-generational. It helped introduce all that Motown music to kids. And, I remember my parents bought that soundtrack and go, this is awesome. And, yeah, it is good. So
I agree. Connecting with my father loved music. It was the easiest way to connect with him, and my father was a Vietnam vet. He was in the military. And he had a hard exterior, but a soft inside. And once we connected like that, it was amazing. And definitely music was our gateway to, to our relationship.
And to keep an unoriginal theme going where grown middle-aged men start tearing up about their dads. My father was like a doo-wop dude. And that's, and it was sort of around the same time that Billy Joel album came out, where it was like an ode to his doo-wop.
Uptown Girl.
Yeah, and all that stuff. My dad loved that album. So I'm with you there, man.
Good one.
I'm going to start out with not only a killer soundtrack, and these are the ones I own, not in the grand scheme my favorites, but a killer movie, and that's Streets of Fire.
Nice.
Yes. This, I don't know, getting a reflection there from the light, but Streets of Fire. This is like the 5 cheesy things that VC people do, and the label. Yeah. Great thing about this movie, I just got the Blu-ray special giant edition of the movie. Walter Hill, 48 Hours, Warriors, and this is like a rock and roll fable is what they call this. Willem Dafoe's in it, and the movie still holds up. It's awesome. Diane Lane, Smoking Hot, and the famous song from it, "I Can Dream About You." But the music, the songs that are really killer are the Jim Steinman, who's famous for working with Meatloaf. And his songs are so akin to Phil Spector-ish, like these overproduced Sound of Wall songs. So what it means to be young, and just like these kind of youth anthem type of booms. That's the stuff I like on here. So
I love it.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I love the Phil Spector Wall of Sound type of vibe. Whenever a song has that vibe, I get excited.
Well, I'm not. He became a stereotype of himself with the outrageous wigs and going to prison for killing someone. But Jim Steinman, I think people. I don't know if a lot of younger people know who he is, but he was very influential with his Total Eclipse of the Heart. Just a lot of songs have that signature sound of his. So
absolutely. Yeah. All right. So my number 4 was, to me, it was a cultural moment for young people in the early 90s. And that's a movie called The Crow. This movie, it was insane because Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, passed away on the set. And instantly, everyone I knew started talking about this movie before it came out. Like, oh my God, he got killed. And there was all these legends about this movie and the movie being cursed and just, craziness to the point where when I went to go see it on opening night, the first 3 shows were like sold out. I think we went to like a midnight show because that's how popular it was. But the one thing that struck me about the movie was the soundtrack, and it's a lot of original songs. It starts off with The Cure, which is one of my favorite 80s bands. It's got Stone Temple Pilots, Nine Inch Nails, Rage Against the Machine, Violent Femmes, Rollins Band, that's Henry Rollins from Black Flag, Helmet, Pantera. It's just song after song after song. It's definitely got a 90s feel to it. I would say the soundtrack is better than the movie. I know that people stand by this movie and love it. To me, it's a little bit cheesy, but the soundtrack definitely holds up, and it's one of my favorites. So that's my number 4, The Crow.
Yeah, my movie-related connection to that is a friend of mine made a movie with the actor who actually had the accident with Brandon Lee. That's the way I would like to say it. And from what I hear, that dude never, ever got over it. Never.
I heard the same
every day
thing.
it haunted that dude. So
rough.
My next soundtrack is a vinyl find of probably what is considered one of the biggest movie flops of all time. And that's Michael Cimino's Days of Heaven, which now I believe is a very well-regarded film. But when it came out, and it was right after Michael Cimino made The Deer Hunter. Haven't seen The Deer Hunter. You need to see that. That's a
masterpiece.
Movie. Yeah, masterpiece. So he was the fervor for this film, but it went into massive delays and reshoots. I believe Michael Cimino's original cut, which I think you could see is like well over 3.5 hours. It just, I think at the time, that's the trouble with making these videos on YouTube. People can call you out if you say the wrong thing. But huge budget. But the soundtrack is mainly, by, Maricone. So great kind of soundtrack. This is a promo that I found, and it sounds great. And if you haven't seen the movie, it's told through this young. She just recently passed away. This actress, Mance. So, recommend the movie. Soundtrack's good, but it's there's no Motown on it. I don't think they had that in the old settler days of the West.
So let me ask you a question. So I do think that a lot of times, like the negative ball starts rolling down the hill before a movie's released. And I think that's what happened with that movie. I remember something similar happening before Titanic's release. It was months and months and months delayed. I think Entertainment Weekly.
I know a lot about that because of what I do in the movie business. So they did a famous test screening in San Diego.
Yeah.
And Fox lost their S. So what they ended up doing was selling half the movie to Paramount. And Paramount made out like a bandit for a very small investment. Yeah.
It's insane. I feel like if that negative ball starts rolling, sometimes that can carry over into when the film is released. But it didn't happen with Titanic, but it certainly happened with that movie.
Well, we're talking different times.
Yep.
And this was not a mainstream wide release film. It's, if you know this type of movie, it's very deliberate and slow paced and naturalistic. So it's more Oscar bait. But and Titanic ended up being Oscar bait. But here's the thing in the movie industry and marketing and stuff: the number one indicator with anything success is word of mouth. It's not really the critics. They spur it, but it's you telling your friends. So as a VC person who's becoming pretty popular, when you recommend something, you're going to a wide audience. I'll say this too. I'm not a big believer in fanboys because they're nerds with money and they have one friend. But, the word of mouth on people telling Titanic, you got to see it. You got to see it. And the hardest demographic to get into your movie is teenage girls. Oh, Leo.
Really? Yeah. Do you feel like people, not to go down this rabbit hole, but do you feel like also people are more accepting of very long movies? When you have these movies, like I took my son to go see an Avengers movie or something. I think it was over 3 hours. I'm like, what's going on? Because that's not my normal cup of tea for a film, but it just never seemed to end.
Well, okay, but let's put it this way. A good movie, it doesn't matter how long it is.
Right.
It draws you in and it keeps your attention. A not so good movie cannot be short enough.
Yeah.
So it's all psychological when it comes down to it. I mean, what's your favorite record of all time? How long is that record?
I know it's probably 40 minutes, but yeah.
I'm getting into jazz like crazy. I think the average length of a jazz album is 33 minutes.
I know. Yep.
And I'll say this, keep it in the movie world. Okay. I usually can guess people's favorite movie, but I'll put a movie just in the is Beetlejuice, right? Great movie, right? Yes. Michael Keaton is on screen for less than 15 minutes in that film.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Crazy, wow. Huh?
That is crazy. Yeah. All right. So I guess it's my time at number 3. Yeah. And this is another 80s. So don't hate me, guys. I have some 80s on here. But Less Than Zero. This was produced by Rick Rubin. And it's got, the big hit was the Bangles' Hazy Shade of Winter, which is a great song. But what I really love about this is it's got Roy Orbison, and he's got a song that is actually written by Glenn Danzig, the singer of the Misfits. It's got Aerosmith, it's got LL Cool J, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Public Enemy. This is another one of those that I listened to a lot when I first got my license. Back then it was cassettes, guys, and then CDs, and I would just play it over and over and over again. So Less Than Zero. It's a little bit of a depressing movie. So be prepared. This is not going to be the Breakfast Club.
Little bit, a lot of it.
Well,
you know what? You say it's like 80s, but all those bands you just listed are very relevant today. So I don't feel like you're not holding a time capsule in your hand.
Exactly.
And it's about the movie's about excess to the hilt. When is that never in fashion? You know?
Right. Absolutely.
And that was like Robert Downey Jr.'s string of playing the drugged out misfit in like a million movies. So
yeah, and he lived it in real life too. So.
Yes, I've been around him. He's like bounces off the walls. He's got a lot of energy. Okay, my next album is a band. The band that did the score for it is it's Thief, Michael Mann's Thief. If you've never seen it,
yep,
quite a great movie. Great filmmaker. Tangerine Dream. Nice. Great soundtrack, and Tangerine Dream does tons of soundtracks. You know, if you ever another movie that you might not seen is the Tom Cruise Legend.
Yep, absolutely.
Ridley Scott, which is we could talk about days for movies that were maligned and years later loved. But if you get to see the director's cut, the original release was taken away from him or changed. His director's cut, it has a different soundtrack. Tangerine Dream replaced, I think it's James Horner. I could be wrong on Legend, but great soundtrack, great movie, vinyl find, perfect edition. I love Goodwill and the $2 records. So
love it. That's great. Awesome. And James Caan is a great actor. All right, so my next one is going to be the soundtrack from the movie Singles. This is a case that I really feel the soundtrack is better than the movie. The movie, I am a fan of Cameron Crowe. I think that this is not his best movie though. I really
Almost Famous, hands down.
Almost Famous, hands down. That scene in Almost Famous when they're dancing to Mona Lisa and Mad Hatters, the Elton John song. At that point, I was like, this is one of my all-time favorite movies.
I don't want to pause you for a second, but if you have not seen it's called the bootleg cut of Almost Famous. It's the director's cut. It's like 45 minutes longer.
Yeah, so good.
Run and see that. All right, go on. I'm sorry.
All right. So, but yes. So at this point in his career, he was kind of an indie director, right? Like he hadn't had the Jerry Maguire yet, I don't think. I could be wrong.
No, Say Anything was a popular film, and that was that was Fox, and James L. Brooks produced it.
Yeah, and that was a great movie. But so this is all Seattle bands, and it has Alice in Chains, 2 songs by Pearl Jam, Chris Cornell, Mother Love Bone, the Love Mongers, which essentially is Heart with the 2 sisters from Heart. Which I love Heart. They're so great. Mudhoney, it's just fantastic. If you have not heard this, go listen to it. The 2 songs that Pearl Jam puts on here, State of Love and Trust and Breath, were 2 songs that they omitted from 10. And those are just fantastic songs. And you think, man, what a creative peak those guys were at that point in the early 90s, where throwaway songs are still staples in their live set today. So yeah, Singles, this would be my number 2, and it's fantastic.
It's funny. I was under the impression there was an urban myth that Nirvana was in the film, and they wouldn't sign away their song rights, so they edited them out of the film. But I actually ran into Cameron Crowe and asked him that, and he goes, "That's not true."
Oh wow, good to know.
Yeah, so. Did you ever hear that story or no?
I had heard it, but I always just figured it was urban legend. You hear these things, and some people come up to you and they tell it like it's fact. And I'm like, well, I've never seen Nirvana in that film. But yeah.
No, I mean, I have access to stuff like that professionally. Yeah. So it's always cool to ask people questions that, you've heard.
Absolutely. I love it, man.
Very relatable. Okay, are we on number 4?
Yep. Or if we're going in the opposite order.
Oh.
That was my number 2.
2. That was your 2?
That was my 2. Yep.
That was your 2? This is my 2. All right. So I'm leaving some behind, but I have okay.
You can do honorable mention at the end.
Yeah. So Running Scared. Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. Great. If you haven't seen it, great buddy cop action movie. And it has the great Michael McDonald song, Sweet Freedom.
Nice.
If you
Love
haven't
it.
seen the video for it, where they, Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines make a little cameo in it. So the movie's great. Soundtrack is very, talk about 80s. Soundtrack's very 80s. You know, it has Man Size Love by Climax, such an 80s band, Sweet Freedom, and Ready for the World's on it. Fee Waybill from the Tubes. It's so 80s. So, yes.
Those movies take me back, though. And it's funny because if I'm flipping through the TV and they're on like a movie like Running Scared or Trading Places, I'm instantly like catapulted into.
Doesn't matter where you come into it. You sit there and watch the rest of the movie. Yep.
Exactly. All right, guys. So my number one, and my subscribers, if you're watching this, you guys know that I was on a hunt for this one for a long time, and I found it in a used bin, and that is The Lost Boys. So this is a movie that, as a kid, I used to sleep over at my friend Mark's house, and his mother was really cool. She didn't care what we rented; it didn't matter, you know. So we could go rent the rated R movies and things like that. And she had this soundtrack. So we would rent the movie and then listen to the soundtrack. It's got In Excess, Luke Graham, Roger Daltrey, Echo and the Bunnyman. It's just really great soundtrack. And when I put it on, this is one of those that catapults you back to the movie. You start thinking the imagery of the movie. And it's fantastic. They are re-releasing this, so because I know that some people have been on the hunt for this like me. And Friday Music, which is an audiophile label, has a release of this coming out. So
awesome. You know, and we discussed earlier the most iconic thing that is replicated from that film is the greased up, muscle bound saxophone dude. I think The Simpsons used him a lot.
Absolutely.
It's
he still does, I guess, conventions and things where he signs autographs. I took my son to Comic-Con and it was amazing. I don't read comic books, but I was just amazed at the craziness of it.
Yeah. I have friends that go to those signing events. They make bank signing autographs. Crazy. But I think he also played with Tina Turner, I want to say. Maybe on her song from Thunderdome. I think he might be in the video, but I could be wrong.
Nice. We'll have to Google that. Beyond the Thunderdome. Mad Max Part 3.
Yeah. So the best soundtrack I own is and I went on the hunt for it, and I found a great promo mint is She's Having a Baby, John Hughes movie. This is a great soundtrack. If you don't even want to watch the movie, which I love the movie, and I think it's very autobiographical story of John Hughes, Kevin Bacon, and Elizabeth McGovern. There are 2 videos that are literally the scenes from the movie you can pull up on YouTube of This Woman's Work by Kate Bush. You watch that clip from the movie of the song, and if your tears aren't streaming down your face, you're not a human being. So, and then Apron Strings, the song Apron Strings, they're great montages in the movie, these scenes the songs are part of the movie. They're not in the background. They are used figuratively and literally to capture the emotional moments of the movie. And I think with John Hughes, all his films have pretty good soundtracks. And I got a nice little promo.
I love it.
On there. And beautiful. And I will say this, here's another, if people can, the one good thing I want to come from starting this channel is to confirm stuff that I had heard and not know. So 16 Candles, which was John Hughes' first movie he wrote and directed, has a killer soundtrack. Go online and people have actually created it. It's like 30 songs from the movie. But the actual soundtrack that came out that you might be able to find very hard on vinyl is like an EP. It only has like 4 songs. But I had heard a story where an actual soundtrack was produced and maybe pulled back. And if someone can confirm that, leave it in the comments. I would love to know. But go online and just type in 16 Candles soundtrack. and people have curated it. It is freaking awesome. Some people might illegally download it, but
Yeah.
it has the AC/DC song. It's just killer. 30 if you want to be brought back. And in actual, there's a company out of England called Arrow. They're a video company,
Yep.
and they have a killer special edition of 16 Candles Blu-ray. It's regional to England, but if you have a computer with a drive hooked up, you can watch it. Kick ass. I think it came out a couple years ago. And yeah, that's my John Hughes.
John Hughes is so fantastic. He absolutely is. And when you look at his filmography, whether it was directing or writing, it's just so immense and so many classics. And you can instantly tell the feel of his movies. As soon as a movie's on, you're like, oh, this has to be John Hughes. He had that unique heart and so much humor, but so much heart, And
he could churn it. He could churn it out. He typically would write a script in a week. Right. And with his passing, I've heard stories where his family's sitting on hundreds of scripts.
Amazing.
It's amazing. And then there's other urban myths too about it's a defunct movie magazine, Premiere, had a great article years ago that the writer got to see a 3-hour cut of Breakfast Club where there's a musical number in it.
Really?
Yeah, they're at the swimming pool at the school. And I got there's a criterion of Breakfast Club that has a lot of omitted scenes, but not this holy grail of the 3-hour cut. It's crazy. And imagine the soundtrack. Yeah. You allowed me an honorable mention, and this is so not about promoting me, but I have friends that made a movie that last year was #1 on Netflix called 1BR. It's a nice little thriller. And they went out and produced 100 copies of the soundtrack. I have it here. I have 74 out of 100. I can take it apart to show the cover so you can see it. And it's got a nice little, what do they call these? Obies?
Obi, yeah.
There's the cover with the young lady who stars in it. And I am an extra in it. So if I have one look that works for me. It's this black hat, the glasses, and I'm wearing this in the movie. So
nice.
Yeah, check it out. It's on Netflix. Not to, but hey, only 100 of these. I think there might be some still available, but not.
I'm gonna go watch the movie and look for you. I'll hit pause.
Yeah. It's more I think it's more terrifying to see me in the movie than the actual movie, but might be close. So there it is.
All right.
Great for you joining me. I really appreciate you helping introduce me into this world. And if I'm not lazy enough to maybe produce, I don't think I'll be as prolific as you are. So.
Well, I loved it, dude. Thank you so much. And I'll be happy to watch your videos. It's going to be exciting to see them come out. And I really appreciate letting me be your first guest, which is awesome.
Yeah. And thank you for letting this be my first video and me finding my voice and where I can fit in this world and be different other than a middle-aged guy with a hat and glasses and a beard.
And facial. Yeah.
Facial
so
hair.
Every once in a while, I shave to give myself a different look.
I use an electric razor, and every day bleeds into the other until we come out of this, where I can actually lather up and do a proper shave. So
sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, JC. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Man. See you all and everyone who enjoyed this video next time. Like and subscribe, please. Thanks.